Hey guys. Okay, so after watching this episode, I kind of have to apologize for pretty much everything I said about Anna and her being annoying because when I said those words, I had honestly completely forgotten about Lyserg. Like no joke, I had forgotten he even existed. And that's not me being snarky or hyperbolic. I had literally forgotten that this annoyance actually existed as a character within the series, and I was happily being ignorant to that fact until now, because and that's because credit where it's due. At least Anna, despite the flaws and annoyances I still do have with her, she still has her moments and serves a purpose to the story. But with Lyserg, even now, I'm still trying to understand why he's a character in this story. I mean, obviously, he's meant to serve as a commentary on revenge, and there are a couple interactions he does have with the other cast that I like after this point. But up until honestly, I'm just gonna say it. It's one of those things where it pretty much it isn't like Serg is a completely one-dimensional character, but at the same time, up until the final stage of the story, hatred for Hal is pretty much really the only emotional note he operates on. Like that is literally the only freaking thing the dude has going for him, and that is really the only like emotional core at the guy's character. Like the only positive I can really spin about Lyserg is that because the reboot is adapting straight from the manga, there are going to be a lot less moments of annoyance with him compared to the original anime, where because they did need to extend this because they didn't need to extend the series and whatnot. He he was basically a lot more and he was a lot more of an annoying little he was a lot more of an annoying little pissant 24/7 when he was in the original anime. But that also just kind of makes him. But honestly, at the core of it, honestly, he's kind of forgettable. Like it's one of those things where obviously I'm saying how annoying he is now, but when you really when you really get down to it, I'm just like the. It's one of those things where I had because I had forgotten him up until this point. It shows that I'm gonna easily forget him like the moment he pretty much the reboot ends. That's kind of just my overall thoughts on the guy. Like again, he isn't one dimensional or anything, but just the way he's written is not great, honestly. Um, and like but by the time the final episode of the reboot airs, I'll have forgotten Lyserg faster than I can snap my fingers. Just to give you guys a little context to that. But yeah, um, aside from all that though, I'm amazed how the anime, despite having relatively slow pacing this week, still managed to pull out an insane reveal in the last like minute of the episode. Because basically the final minute of the episode basically lays all the cards on the table, which is that yes, how, which is where we get the reveal that yes, how was based the reason, which is that how was originally of the Asakura family, which again we kind of already knew because of how the series had started, but this is one of those things where we get where through this reveal we kind of what it basically means is that how in his current reincarnation has returned to his original bloodline. Like how started as the like as the heir as the first head of the Hasakura family, meaning he is the even now he is their burden to deal with, and with him having returned to his original bloodline, whether Yo likes it or not, this is a burden he has to deal with. And I love how this reveal also ties kind of into the conversation between Yo and Amid Maru, as well as what Yo had, as well as what Yo had said to Lyserg and Lyserg's own concerns, because it reinforces that a lot of these scenes reinforce that yes, while Yo is a genuinely nice person and wants to see the good in everyone and everything, it also builds upon the idea that when the time comes, he's going to have to make a choice of ultimately what he'll need to do in order to ensure the peaceful world he envisions, the world where he wants everyone to live in peace the way he envisions it. he'll have to he'll he'll have to make the choice of what to do in that moment to to ensure that world is possible, because he has to realize that how he'll eventually I think have to come to the realization that how exists as the exact antithesis to everything Yo believes in, if he even wants, and that's what he'll have to realize if he even wants to have any hope of defeating him at all. Like, how is basically pure hatred for is pure hatred and chaos, and wants pure hatred for the world, and wants to kind of engulf it in absolute chaos, whereas Yo wants to completely wants absolute peace. So it's like they're both a yin and yang at this point, and and Yo just can't afford to be soft in order to defeat him. And one thing I never appreciated until now is how effectively and naturally the manga gets across exposition and reveals, because each one feels like it's not dragging its feet. Each one is just naturally naturally flowing within the story and narrative itself. Aside from that, though, the other reveal we should probably talk about is Mikihisa, because his introduction definitely happened much later in the manga, in the story, than the original anime. But again, it's kind of another indicator that if he's keeping his eye on Yo, then that just means how much Yo's family are concerned about his readiness to face how Yo isn't. It signifies that Yo isn't ready at all in order to face how he still is too soft and he's not powerful enough. Now, with that said, even though I may not be a big fan of Lyserg himself, I have always been a big fan of his abilities in Guardian Ghost. In fact, I think in some respects, just the way we get into the more detail with the ability of dowsing and how Lyserg demonstrates the power in this episode, kind of makes me realize how much of the original anime might have downplayed the ability, because we only get to see how precise and effective just Lyserg's ability with his dowsing pendulum is, but the versatility of how it's used does kind of just show how almost kind of OP dowsing as an ability in this world is. Like, aside from the obvious flaw of Lyserg running the risk of being left open to attack, the way he utilizes the pendulum with his Guardian Ghost is such a deadly combo that really makes you understand understand just from how little time you actually have to react before it hits its target. Like, if Ren hadn't interjected in that fight, then Horo would have really been defeated. Like, the pendulum was practically aiming for his head, and it almost got to him too. Like, it's really showing just how powerful this ability is. Like, it's almost borderline OP when you really look at it. Now, on the flip side to that though, the fight itself was good, but once again, it was still very heavily censored, as it cut out a chunk where Lyserg not only tore Ren and Horo's weapons apart, which that they mostly kept in, but the one thing they left out was a scene where basically Lyserg had restricted both Ren and Horo with his pendulum string, and basically pretty much and shredded their bodies pretty badly as well. What I just described to you was completely censored from the anime, and I don't understand why the reboot is doing this, because it feels unnecessary and needless. And honestly, what makes it even more frustrating is that just last week we basically saw the show kind of embrace the more bloody side of the series with Hal killing with Prince Hal, like Prince killing Lily Rara, and like even though that itself was in its own way censored, at least they showed it. But here they're not. But here they just kind of skip past the scene altogether. And again, I don't understand why. It doesn't. it feels so like the censoring just in general feels so inconsistent. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter and Crunchyroll, and be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and be sure to share around, guys. Death Knight of Me, signing off. Later.